Hi, Alan D.T. Neal here, talking about storytelling, writing, science fiction, cyberpunk, fantasy, horror, all that. And continuing to talk a little about cyberpunk. I really feel in our day-to-day existence we are at one of those key points where especially with AI, it just so breezily sliding into position from the desire of corporations and those who run them to make more money, ever more money, more money, and the AI being one of the perfect tools to fast track that. There's both, and we kind of go between the two things of this idea of the promise of AI and then the fact that it never quite delivers what they want it to. And yet it's impossible, even if it's not fully realized, it's impossible not to see how it's going to have an ever increasing effect on everyone's lives. And we're going from, it's kind of like, for those of you old enough to remember, when the internet first appeared, okay? And I remember conventional media channels, television, newspapers, remember them? Magazines, same thing, remember them? Where they were talking about, oh, well, those digital things will never replace brick and mortar. The brick and mortar industries absolutely shaded the internet. Oh, people like to go to stores. They're not going to rely on internet. And looking back on that now, it's like, oh, really? Like, it's unbelievable when you watch all these brick and mortar companies going bankruptcies everywhere. And the absolute prevalence of things like streaming and online or e-commerce, online shopping. You look at those things and again, 20 years ago, people were like, it'll never happen. It's happening real time. That digital space is gobbling up everything. AI is going to be the next part of that. And people have said enough of that. People have said that. And I think people are beginning to really realize that. But it's really jarring because whereas the internet offered an opportunity for a very wide swath. It went from being, the government invented the internet. And don't forget that. It was invented by the government, and then they just handed it off to private interests, which is how American capitalism works, public development, and then once the proof of concept is there, deliver it to the private industries, and then they have it, and then they own it without having developed it. It's very, very dodgy. But anyway, the AI aspect is part of that too. But the difference, like I said, was with the internet, a whole bunch of people were able to access things that they previously weren't able to access because of the nature of the internet. So you have everybody originally in their little isolated spots in the country or the world, and then they began to become interconnected, and a lot of people talking to each other. And that was a benefit. There's also a risk because misinformation and certainly bad guys have made use of it. But on the whole, a lot of people could contact and reach each other who couldn't before. Now with the AI, the difference is whoever really develops a proper AI, it's going to be in their hands, their private hands. And it could be something as narrow-minded and greedily focused as someone who can do stock trades, an AI that can do stock trades, and they're already using tools like that to analyze things at milliseconds, nanoseconds, but as it becomes increasingly formidable in that regard, that will revolutionize the markets and make people incredibly rich. Some people, most everybody else though, left out in the weeds. you know, from a writerly perspective, I look at all that stuff, and again, it drives me bananas that there are people are using Chat GPT to write stories, or to have Chat GPT write the stories for them, and then they're like, "Oh, I wrote the story. I plugged this in, and look what came." Liars. So as a writer, a human writer, I feel that very keenly. Like, we're among the first to be ruined by that. But AI, as it continues to get better at what it does and continues to expand, it will displace more and more and more people. And I saw some analysts saying that in 10, I don't know, it's 10 to 20 years, like almost every job that we have will be replaced by AI. And for those of us who are not privileged to be in on that particular advancement, we're all going to be left out in the weeds. We will become superfluous, even more than we already are, and in a non-democratic or post-democratic or an autocratic world, the evisceration of human rights in favor of property rights by AI-generated actions, that's a really terrifying prospect. That's something that should put the fear in you. Not from any kind of Luddite anti-technological perspective. It's more just from a human rights perspective. And those at the top have clearly demonstrated they're very keen on their own rights, their right to be super rich, their right to do anything that they want without consequence, their right to be, this is their view, their right to be immune from accountability to the law. Like, that's for them. They believe that. But they don't want everyone to feel that way or be that way or act that way. It's only for them, the privilege of the ultra, ultra rich, to be able to do that. And looking at that bubble that hits them, that AI revolution, which will be conceived of privately in that sense, not developed. They will no doubt continue the model of letting public research develop those tools, and then when they kick the tires enough, it goes into private hands completely. But it'll benefit a small group of people immensely, and the rest of us will be at the mercy of that. And terrifyingly, if there's a mistake with the AI and it calculates something improperly, or they fill it with corporate values so it becomes a psychopathic entity and just decides that we as a species are part of the problem, real problem. Makes Skynet look like a folk dance. So anyway, there's a lot to think about, and while I will always support progress, there's also a concern that there are things afoot that I feel like are going to forever change human existence. And there it is.